The following marketing information and discussion is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as professional guidance or consultancy. You should find an agency for that. Comexis is a digital marketing agency, so feel free to hire us, but otherwise, just enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to The Buyer's Journey by Comexis, a discussion-based podcast on the ever-changing marketing landscape. I'm Matthew McGroarty, the social media content producer here at Comexis.
I am Len Ward, the managing partner at Comexis.
And Josh is busy prepping his work in advance for his vacation next week, so he is not going to be joining us this week, but we still have some excellent stories for you. So we're about a day pushed. So today we're going to be talking about the consideration phase of the buyer's journey. We're going to be hopping over the awareness phase. In particular, there's been some new information about Google expanding its targeted and geolocation ads in some really interesting ways. So Google's going to be expanding this functionality so that now it is, instead of people in your targeted locations, to people in or regularly in your targeted locations. So what does that mean? Well, basically that means that instead of showing ads to people only when they're physically located in your targeted location at the time of the search. So in the consideration phase, we do some geo-targeting when we're thinking of different demographics at work, depending on what it is. Like, let's say it's, I don't know, a camp. Where would you suggest geo-targeting something like a camp?
For a camp?
For a camp. I know that's kind of broad, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, if it's like a camp, like any type of camp, I don't know if it's like a baseball camp for kids or something like that, where they're kind of doing future training, I would geo-fence that probably no more than about 16 miles around where that camp is, because normally parents will drive, they would drive about 16 miles max to drop a kid off at a location. A lot of people historically, they work and do certain things no more than 16 miles out from where their location is. So that's probably where I would target.
Okay. And if we're talking about specific targeted locations, would you target things like, I don't know, YMCAs, business complexes, sort of things like that, perhaps?
Well, two places I would target with that. I would target the baseball fields where the kids are playing baseball. I would also target the schools where not only, well, the kids aren't going to see it, but mom and dad are going to pick them up. They may be waiting in the car line or whatever it may be, and they would kind of grab their phones. And lastly, I would target neighborhoods that, you know, have a propensity for kids and things like that. So that's kind of where I would go. But the place I would probably geofence the first would be the baseball fields.
Okay. So with this change, now instead of just having to have one of the parents on one of the games on like a Saturday or something, or at night, at the actual baseball field itself, now Google can let you, if they have commuted there, which they probably have, they will now be able to be targeted later, knowing that they were at the baseball field at some point.
It's huge.
So there's a couple pictures in the blog post. A lot of this information is coming from Ginny Marvin on Search Engine Land. She has a great write-up. But there's some pictures of what this will look like when you're setting up your ad campaign. So they have location options. Do you want people in or who show interest in your targeted locations? Do you want people in or regularly in your targeted locations, or just people searching for your targeted locations? And then you can exclude things based on interests, certain locations that you're trying to exclude, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea here is, of course, being able to hit people when they're commuting, but also maybe when they're at home, relaxing, watching some TV, and then you're still hitting them with that ad, so that they're no longer, you know, only getting hit at work. They can now be hit at home and in other places. So a lot of really interesting things with that. Len, what do you think about this?
So believe it or not, this is actually, you could actually morph this back into the awareness stage, because how we just used that example of the baseball thing is, you know, if I'm going to geofence a baseball field, the reality situation, I'm not going to get many parents looking at that. You do get some parents looking at their phones on the sports, but normally you're really engaged watching your kid play. There are other things in which you could geofence events where people are grabbing their phones and so forth. But this is interesting because if you are a baseball camp, here's how I would use this tool. If you're a baseball camp, I would absolutely target the locations of the baseball fields, because the parents, when they get home, are going to be scrolling on Google and look in various different things, and that's when your ads are coming up. So to definitively know an individual is at a location, and then I can target them when they're away from that location. Think about how this affects like a car dealership. Think about how this affects, even like a restaurant. Maybe there's maybe you can identify maybe somebody, they're working at a location and you own a luncheonette or something or a diner. You can then target that person when they're at night. So when they're kind of on their phone looking at things, oh, look at that, I know those were next to my work, and so forth.
Time to have lunch tomorrow there.
Bingo. Exactly. So I think this goes, this is a great awareness tool. I can definitely see the consideration phase. Again, consideration phase, because again, if you're a Honda dealership and somebody went to your dealership, they never went to your website, they just stopped by because maybe they like the car. It's kind of rare, you don't see that anymore. Or let's just say you're two Honda dealerships, somebody's going to a Honda dealership and you're the competitor, you want to target your competitor and have those ads show. This is a really, really interesting way to target people. It's very interesting. This is a really good tool Google has. I actually kind of wonder when Facebook's going to roll this out. That
would be an incredible game changer.
This is a much bigger game changer, I think, than people think. This is strong. I just tend to think, though, for an awareness campaign, as everybody knows, I'm a huge proponent of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube to a lesser extent, Google to even lesser extent on display. I think this type of strategy plays really well on social media. I think it plays well on Google. But while we will definitely implement this quickly, I would be very interested when Google and Instagram roll this out, because this is a really, really powerful strategy that people can employ, and I would recommend employing this almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing that I wanted to point out. Andrea Cruz, a digital marketing manager at Co-Marketing Associates, they're the ones who tipped off Search Engine Land that this change had been made. But they point out that Google is not telling you what the criteria is for someone to be considered regularly located in that targeted area. And when we think about frequency, how recent the visit is, things like that, those can matter pretty significantly. I mean, you had a great example of, what if I work somewhere? Well, I'm there probably 5 times a week, and then the restaurant can target me and they'll know how often I'm there. It makes sense. But if you're just walking by, or you just stopped for a nice day in Haddonfield or something like that, the recency does kind of matter and how often you're there. So hopefully Google gives you those options in the future.
I wonder if it's Google. There's 2 things. Number 1, I use the term luncheonette like it's 1928. Luncheonette, come on, dude. Number 2, I wonder if this is Google. They're pinging you via your phone because you have the Google app on your phone, you have Google Maps on your phone, and more importantly, you're signed into your Gmail account. I wonder if it's limited strictly to Google users.
I don't know.
It's got to be. There's no way that if you have no Google properties at all on your phone, which is really rare, it's going to be impossible for them to kind of figure out who you are. But I would be interested. I think this kind of falls into the whole, you can do pay-per-click ads or display ads within Google, within Gmail. And I kind of wonder if this is like an extension tool. And I'll be honest when I say this. I read this report a few days ago. I did a little research on it, but not enough. But I am kind of wondering if this is just another thing within the Google advertising suite that you can use. But I'm going to bet this is directly geared towards Google users who have an active login on Gmail or actively using Google Maps or something along those lines. So it's got to be, that's the way they're targeting you. It's got to be.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on this, seeing if anything develops from it. Obviously, we're going to start implementing it into our campaigns. We think it's really interesting. So we'll let you guys know in the future if we have any updates, if they make any changes, if they bring that transparency in, frequency and things like that. We'll give you the heads up. Well, thank you for listening to today's episode of The Buyer's Journey. Check us out on Comexis.com, YouTube, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. And please follow us on Twitter at @buyers_journey. Thanks for listening.